The most certain way to succeed is always just to try one more time. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Sports for Champions podcast. Today I'm joined by skateboarder Rebecca Davies. How are you today, Rebecca?
I'm good, thanks. Are you?
Yeah, not so bad, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today. There's so much to get into. You've had such an exciting career. I'd like to take it all the way back, if you could, to your very first experience of skateboarding.
So I got into skateboarding because my dad was a skateboarder and he was working in Liverpool at the time, and I'm obviously based in North Wales. So by the time he was coming home, it felt like I was ready for my bedtime at the time. So I felt like I didn't have the opportunity to see him very often. So I thought, why not have a ride and see if I can pick it up. And I first started off on rollerblades originally, and then I went on more onto then obviously trying it with my dad then on the skateboard, and yeah, I just picked it up from there. Just found it was so creative, and the feeling that I got, I felt like once I got more into it, I felt like I was flying. Wow. It was really good. Yeah,
that's amazing. I mean, I do remember my first sort of foray into skateboarding. I got about as far as trying to ollie. Yeah. Never quite managed to land a proper ollie, maybe one or two by accident. But can you tell us a little bit about your first trick and how you first found it kind of getting off the ground on the board?
So my forte was transition skateboarding. So I didn't really do street skating at the time. So I think it was like, just dropping in. So just getting into that feeling of putting your front foot down on that ramp and just riding away. I remember having support from my dad and the crowd from my dad's friends applauding me, and it was just a really great feeling, and just being able to pick up the tricks and finding it quite easy just made me feel like I wanted to try more. So yeah.
Were you scared?
Not that I can remember. I was just more like excited to try something different, and my dad taught me how to fall safely. So I suppose once you get over the fear of that, in fact when you fall over it doesn't hurt. As long as you've learnt how to fall safely, you can have so much fun. I remember falling off a ramp and just like doing the worm at the bottom of the ramp just to make fun of it. So if people are out there that are learning how to skateboard and you're fearful for hurting yourself, just practice falling in different ways and have fun with it, because it's not really that scary.
Wow, falling with style, Buzz
yeah,
Lightyear style.
Yeah.
Nice. So it's obviously been a bit of a wild career for you. You've skated with some of the best skateboarders of all time. Can you tell us a little bit about when you first started to realise that you could take this professionally and sort of realised what a talent you had?
So I remember going to a skate park in Stockport, and that had a bigger ramp called a vert ramp, and I remember practicing and learning transferring the skills that I had on a mini ramp to a vert ramp, and then progressing to doing airs and spins, where I think I must have been about 11 when I started then venturing out to European competitions. I did really well in those, but I was competing against men, and then I went out to my first comp in Vancouver, and it was the first comp that I could compete against women on vert. So that was...
How old were you at this point?
It was my 13th birthday, so
wow.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience to be able to ride with some other female competitors that were I was watching on the telly, and it was just a nice experience.
Do you remember what the attitudes were around sort of girls in skateboarding at that young age? I know it's something that's changing now, and you're seeing sort of emerging stars in the female sport, sort of coming out like your Sky Browns and things like that. Do you remember how it was back then?
So I was really oblivious to the persona of like female girl skateboarding. I was just so focused on having so much fun, but when I got into like competing, I was competing against the men. Obviously some of them were young lads of this similar age to me, and I was always placing 4th and 5th within those competitions, and I started slipping back a little bit, and that I felt like that was down to individuals that were stopping me, and because they'd seen that I was a female, and again I was the only female competing in vert skating, but I thrived off it. I thought if I was able to compete against boys or men, that when I got the opportunity to compete against females, that I'd have a better opportunity to place a higher ranking, or as at least I'd hope anyway. But you know, now things are evolving and changing. There's so many girls now across the world and the UK doing it, and it's just an amazing feeling to think that I was competing and I was one of the first, and now there's just so many that you can't even count. So yeah, it's really great.
That's so amazing. It's so good to be able to open the door for so much, and then to be able to obviously have an active role in helping the next sort of generation through. If we could just keep on your career in skateboarding for now, in terms of the competitions and things, is there anything that really sticks out for you as like a favourite memory from those times?
So without competing, I was been given the opportunity to do a demonstration with Tony Hawk in Birmingham. I must have been about 11 or 12 at the time. So I remember the feeling of riding with like everybody's idol and getting off the ramp, and then just seeing everyone behind these bollards, not being able to see him, talk to him, and I'm just thinking, wow, what I've got like this amazing honour, like to be able to have met this person, to be able to ride with him. So I feel like that's one amazing thing to remember. And then obviously like the amount of competitions that I've been able to go and compete in, most of them that I felt like I got more like excitement from was in the European competitions. So yeah, it was really good.
In terms of obviously Tony Hawk is somebody I think most people in the UK are well aware of. I think the games that he brought out in the sort of early 2000s kind of transcended the sport as it was in the UK at that time.
Yeah.
Is that something that you sort of were aware of at the time? Did you play the games? Was that a big thing in your childhood?
Yeah, I had the games. However, when I was on them, I felt like I need to be out on my board, and I just like, I was so thankful for my parents because they'd built me a ramp in the back garden, so if I couldn't get to a skate park, or I could practice in the garden. So as soon as I'd play on the video games, I was like, I need to go outside to do it myself.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Wow. And then in terms of competing, I know that you've won competitions across Europe and across the world. Is there anything in particular that stands out for you from that?
Probably the when I went to Canada, so I ranked 8th with the females. So because it was the furthest that I travelled, I feel like even though it was a one-off experience, I feel like it was a big experience, if that makes sense.
No, it does, yeah. And then having sort of looked at your career and sort of diversified what you were doing in the sport, you then started to take a coaching role. Can you tell me a little bit about what maybe a young person who starts out skating can maybe gain from the whole process of learning new tricks and that kind of thing?
Yeah, so it's just an amazing opportunity to try any type of sport, but with skateboarding, because it's not a team sport, I feel like you're allowed to express who you are in your own way. It's not a place of judgment everyone's friendly within the skateboard community. It's very creative. Like, I mean, when I was younger, I remember trying to create tricks that didn't exist, or putting multiple tricks together. So, you know, you've got 3 tricks, but putting it into one, and it's really fun in that aspect. But then, you know, it's a case of, like, I have, or in the past, I've known to be dyslexic, had speech and language issues. So being able to be in a sport where I'd had to start talking, and it was able to allow to grow my skill sets. So that's another positive thing. And then obviously you take knocks and you take falls, and it helps you to get up and try again. And I do think that, including in myself, but other people that I've coached, that I've had parents that have come back to me and said that I can see that their success, I can't get my words out now, but they're doing better in school. So maybe they were struggling and they would give up too easily at school, and because they've been learning how to skateboard, they find that it's better in that way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's such a difficult sport, especially coming from no experience at all. I can tell you that from my own personal experience of really struggling with the short time that I did attempt it. Would you say it's something that builds up a lot of resilience?
Totally, yeah. A lot, obviously. There's just so many good points about it. You could go on. Yeah,
definitely. And so can you tell me a little bit about your own school life? Obviously you started very young, and you were sort of competing in your formative years at high school. How did that impact your school life?
So I had a lot of support during my high school years. So obviously from the age of, or year 7 to year 9, I was able to, you know, take some time off school to go and compete. On, obviously I still had to work hard at school, but I was, like I said, I was dyslexic. I was taken out of a lot of lessons, what other students would have been in. So it gave me more time to focus in on what I felt like I was good at and pursue that more. So it was really helpful to have a supportive school that allowed me to do that.
Definitely. Did you have a favourite sporting hero growing up?
So I really looked up to 2 people from the UK, or 3 at least. So there was a lady that was working, or should I say skateboarding, from the 70s and 80s, and she was the only female that we were aware of that skated. So her name was Sue Hazel, and I just looked up to her because obviously she was another female. And then we have another guy then who is just incredible, how he's like in his mid-50s and he's still like skating, and I can just see that he won't give up skateboarding until he can't walk anymore. So he's just, you know, amazing. And then there's another guy that I've known since I was very, very young, and he's sort of, you know, helped me through some of my career of skateboarding and gave me other opportunities of doing demonstrations and with other athletes of wheel sports. And then obviously you've got your Tony Hawk, and I just think everybody who's a skateboarder, everyone should sort of look up to everybody, sort of thing. And it's just a nice sport to be involved in. So yeah,
that's amazing. I know that you are involved in the sport in a few different capacities, and you've recently started judging tournaments. Can you tell us a bit about that experience?
Yeah, so obviously I'd been invited to do this judging ceremony and with the World Skate. So they do skateboarding, they do inlining, they cover a lot of like wheeled sports base for obviously the wheeled sports competitions, the Olympics, that sort of thing. So it covers everything that you need to know regarding the judging, the doping side of things. So it's helped me be able to get the students to a level of ability and a way of, getting to a point where they want to compete. And then from that, then I've obviously been able to go into judging like the nationals and any side on competitions. So I think I've done about 5 or 6 in the last year, and I've got 2 coming up in November. So it's exciting being involved in like the events that I once used to compete in and now seeing it in a total different way. But it's just still as exciting as it was when I was competing, and it's just amazing, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And do you have a favourite sporting quote?
So I have one that I put on my own t-shirt, which is "Believe you can and you will." I don't like no negativity when I have students coming to me, because like I said, with being dyslexic, I've had a lot of negativity being brought to my attention that you can't do this, you can't do that. Who's saying that I can't do that? Just because maybe can't read or write as well as other people does not mean that I cannot do something. And if I struggle, I'm going to make a way of making it work. So for anybody that thinks that they can't do something, you can just change your trail of thought, and anything's possible. Anything's possible.
That's so true, and it's such an important message. Do you have any advice for somebody maybe looking to start out a career in skateboarding?
So obviously, if you're into wanting to do competing and stuff like that, you've got to have a really good, clear mindset. Know what you want, and just set yourself small goals, and go from there. And obviously get some mentors in to help guide you, and it's an incredible thing to get into, and hopefully there's a lot more. If you don't reach a point where you are competing, then there is other avenues that you can go down that you can fulfill your dreams and goals. So yeah.
Brilliant. I think that's a fantastic note to end it on. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
You're more than welcome. And thank you all for joining us at home. It's been another great episode of the Sports for Champions podcast, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Hi guys, hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you did, be sure to leave us a like and a subscribe, and check out all our other videos for some more great interviews and content. Bye.